This last example is has a little bit of physics involved. This is where you're firing a projectile or an object from the top of a cliff, and it's going in a parabolic shape, and you want to know first of all what's the maximum height and where does it hit the ground. So we won't go through how this is derived. That's something you do in calculus or in physics. I'll just say so if x is the distance from the horizontal distance of the object from the cliff, the height is given by this equation. And I'll just say that the 32, I think, comes from the fact that we know that the acceleration of gravity is 32 feet per second squared. So, yeah, something like that. So, but the important thing is we already have our quadratic function, right? We have this height function, and we're trying to maximize this. Okay, where is its maximum height? So right away, in some ways, this looks like the most difficult, but it's actually the easiest because we're already given the function that we're trying to maximize. And our leading coefficient A is going to be negative 32 over 400 squared, which you might want to simplify that. This turns out to be negative 1 over 5,000. B is 1 and C is 500. So negative b over 2a, or x equals negative b over 2a, gives us negative 1 over 2 times negative 1 over 5,000. Which turns out to be, fortunately, you can see the minus signs cancel out, and this turns out to be 2,500 feet, I guess. Okay. All right, now that tells us what this distance is. Okay, that just tells us the distance from here to here. Define what the maximum is. We take 2,500 and plug that in. So h of 2,500. It's going to be negative 1 over 5,000 times 2,500 squared plus 2,500 plus 500. And that turns out to be 1,750 feet. All right, so that's the answer for part A. And for part B, it's like, where does it hit the ground? Well, when it hits the ground, what's the height? Well, obviously it's 0, right? So basically we want to, in this case, we want to set f of x, or set h of x equal to 0. Okay. Now, this is the one part where we're not trying to maximize, minimize, we're trying to find where is this quadratic function equal to 0. Well, so basically we're setting this equation equal to 0. Well, how do we do that? Well, we just use the quadratic formula. Okay. So the quadratic formula tells us that x is going to be minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. And then now we give this plus or minus gives us two numbers, right? The first number is approximately negative 458. That's with the minus. With a plus, this gives us 4548. Okay. Now, obviously, we want x to be positive. So this is going to be the answer we want. It's negative 458. That basically corresponds. If we were to extend this parabola all the way back up here, then this distance from here to here would be 458. But obviously, we do want x to be positive in this case. So the answer would be 4,548 feet. Okay, well, actually, to be more specific, it's 458 feet from the cliff is where the projectile lands.